Hello, everybody. Hello, Sunday friends. I hope you are doing well. This is a Sunday show, and so it's kind of a palate cleanser for the for the week. We don't usually talk about politics or anything like that, but you can still ask. I'm going to ask. Basically, I'm going to take questions from you guys, and I'm going to from all of you and ask my guides. I will answer if I know, if it's something that I know or that I've experienced, I can answer it. But usually it goes to my guides and anything you'd like to ask. And you can ask things about the state of the world and, those bigger questions. That's what it's for. But it's not a political show, just so you know. But I did, even though that is the case, I did want to kind of do just a 2-minute kind of meditation prayer, and you can do it however you want to. You can say a prayer if you want to. You can just sit in meditation for a couple of minutes. But I thought we could pray for peace, love, and light for Tuesday, that everything will be peaceful and happy, and people will get to vote and all of those things. But also that people will have perfect access or full access to their gift of discernment, right? We all have that. We all have that gift of discernment to recognize truth, right? We all have that. We can turn it off, we can ignore it, but we all have it. And so I thought we could just add that into the meditation or prayer. And so this can look like whatever you'd like it to look like. You can picture a color. You can just sit in silence, but with those kinds of things in mind, right? Love, light, and peace for the day of, and that people have clarity and perfect access to their gift of discernment, that they can vote their conscience, but they can also recognize and feel truth, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. And we're going to sit for 2 minutes, and we will start. And if anybody has a wrench and anybody comes in and says, what's going on, just tell them 2-minute meditation, okay? I guess I should have put it up there, but I didn't think about it. But if anybody has a wrench and they want to do that, thank you so much. Craig, you have a wrench. Sandra, you have a wrench. So yeah, so just 2 minutes, and we'll start now. Okay, thanks everybody. Thank you so much. So let's begin. You can start putting your questions in, but I wanted to just start for just a real quick second because I've been getting a few um, kind of worried emails or panicky emails about things that other readers are saying, and without saying any other reader is wrong, because I'm not gonna say that. You'll never hear me say that. Um, but I want to explain something about reading. And this is the way I understand it from my own experience, but also from the things my guides have said about reading, and, just through the readings I've done and through interactions with them, that we're all kind of born with a kind of baseline vibration, right? That's very individual. And it can vary a lot. So we're all kind of born with this uh, baseline vibration. And one second. Okay. Sorry, I need to plug in my thing. And basically, even generation to generation, it's kind of been steadily going up. So the kids coming in now are really they're coming in at a higher vibration. That's happening, right? So we have this kind of baseline, and some people are higher or lower and that kind of thing. And so what you're doing when you're talking about like raising your vibration, and I always think of it as kind of lightening your vibration rather than raising, and lowering always feels like good and bad. But that's not really what we're talking about. To me, it's more of a lightening or a quickening of your vibration. The spirit realm is at a much lighter and quicker vibration than we are here. Here it's very dense and heavy and slow, right? So when you're talking about vibration and you're talking about like raising your vibration, people talk about that. It's really about lightening it and making it faster. And usually you find those things in joy, enthusiasm, love, but even contentment, right? And peace. It has that lighter feel, right? So those are the kinds of things you're aiming for, but you can't stay in that state all the time, right? So it's a constant kind of, your vibration is kind of moving up and down through the day, because we're all probably in the fourth dimension, where we're moving kind of back and forth. We're swaying back and forth a lot, depending on what's going on during the day. And readers are no different. There are great readers that can be born with a baseline kind of lower vibration, so they need to work on it all the time, right? And big events, things like a death, a divorce, a move that's really hard, or when your life is just really heavy, it can lower or change your vibration. And the reason that matters for a reader is because it doesn't always affect, but it can affect the type of information or the probability of the information that you're pulling out of the whatever energetic highway. When you're following an energy, an energy trail, or you're following the energy, right? You're trying to follow it and see where it's going. And the future is malleable, right? It's movable. We've seen that with things like the death of Navalny, right? I came on right away and talked about that. It felt like we shifted, something happened. And the more people affect, the more you can affect things like that. That's why it matters who we put in charge of stuff, and the people that are famous that we worship or follow. That matters, right? Because they can affect a lot of people. And so, and also with Biden dropping out, right? You could feel it. It shifted something. It moved us from where we were to where we are now. So it moved us. And so that's what we're talking about. And so when you're talking about kind of movable or malleable energy, and then say you're going through a really rough time and a really hard time, you may be kind of, your tendency or you might be drawn to what is resonating with you at that time. So you might pull in a darker story, or a harder, probability, or a lesser, but something that's less probable, right? Because it's kind of off the trail in a way. And it can, so basically what I'm saying is that readers are like everybody else. They have to work on their vibration. And when they hit a difficult time, depending on where their baseline is, they have to work harder. And so that's why you get people getting different things. A lot of times you'll see consistency with with certain readers. It's like they always get the same stuff together. And you'll see that often it's because they're at the same, either a very similar baseline, or they kind of work at the same kind of energetic level, right? And it doesn't mean too that they can't pull in correct information that's just negative. Sometimes they're because of where they are, they might pull in the catastrophes coming and things like that, and other people won't, because they just don't pull in that stuff, right? So it's very interesting. And I always think of, that what we're doing is so miraculous, right? We're reaching into another dimension, really. And so I always think of any message you get, whether it's you as individuals or us as readers, it's a miracle. It is miraculous. And so I'm always grateful, whether I'm right or wrong. If I'm wrong, I learn something, and I feel like I've gained something anyway. And I try to have it be a teachable moment for all of us. I've talked about things and why I think what happened or how I interpreted it. And that's another thing, is interpretation. When you're at a lower vibration, you can interpret things a little more negatively. So, and Raquel, yeah. So she's saying my problem is with interpretation. Yeah. And you can, and usually too, you get to know how your guides work. And Raquel, just remember that your guides are your guides. So they're like you. And so don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. That's why my guides used a lot of like TV and movie references for me, because I would get it right away. It was something that spoke to me in a very obvious way, and if you're the other thing to keep in mind too, Raquel, is that if you're a very deep thinker, your guides might be using, more symbolism and things like that. So kind of, play with it a little bit. And we talk about pulling out the cards, finding tools that speak to you and that you love, though that's what resonates with you. If you love the cards, or you love the idea of a pendulum, or of, dowsing rods or whatever, it speaks to you in some way. It resonates with you. So it's right for you. And it may change over time. So don't be afraid to put down one tool and pick up other tools as you go. But using those tools as well, trust that your guides speak to you in a way that's very you. So a lot of times we overthink or we overanalyze, and so try not to do that. Just go with, I can't say it enough, go with feel. What feels right? Because that's how you kind of know resonance. Once you're up in your head figuring out, that's your brain. That's your human self, right? Your ego. And that's where things can get muddled. And that's why it's tricky when you interpret, because you're getting a message or a feeling, and then you have to think about it. And that's where the can come in. That's why try not to overthink it, because then it's almost like you're overly humanizing it. You want to keep it on that spirit level. So I hope that explains that in a way that is understandable. I know all of this stuff is very, it's different, right? It's different. It's not the way we normally operate. It's outside of the five senses. So it's just different, and it's getting used to that idea. Hi, Marcy. Hi, Seascape. Hi, everybody. Thanks for showing up. Yeah, and I apologize for last week. I was kind of under the weather. Another thing that can lower your vibration, but also your ability to concentrate. For me, it's always concentration. I always feel like I'm I'm a pretty positive person, you know, so I feel like my baseline might be a little bit higher, but I still have to work at it. I still have to work at it because our family has a history of depression. I have sometimes a tendency to worry. That comes from when I was a kid. I've let go of so much of that, but every once in a while it will come back. And so I have to check that and put it, put it aside, especially when I read. And also the here and now. We always talk about the here and now, right? I can't read if I'm thinking about the future or the past. If I'm thinking about laundry right now, I'm going to not be able to read very well at all. But in the here and now, that's where my guides are. That's where my soul is, where I'm aligned, right? And that's what you're trying to do, is just align when you read. Okay. And the higher your vibration is, right? Because your soul is at a very high vibration. Your guides, even higher still, because they're in the spirit realm. And so that's another reason you want to have that lifted, so you can align with ease. One way I know this is true is because, and I haven't talked about the whole experience because it's kind of personal, but it's also, I'm still kind of like integrating it when I had my out of body experience. But what I want to share with you, and why I know how fast your soul is vibrating, is that when I came back into my body, that my body was vibrating so hard and fast. It probably, if somebody was watching what was happening, they would think I was having a seizure. And that's what it, I mean, I don't know if that's what a seizure feels like, but it was not in control. I wasn't in control of my physical body. It was just like that. And it was the whole body, as the body was, as the vibration of my spirit was getting commingled with my body again. It was crazy, crazy. And that's why I can understand too, why if you had this happen all the time, it would be exhausting, because that day I was laid out, exhausted, absolutely spent. But I also thought that's why it happened when I was alone, because had Adam been sleeping next to me, he would have called 911. He would have thought I was having a seizure or something. But that's how fast your spirit is vibrating, and how low we have to kind of, how our spirit kind of has to get compressed into the body. And then that's when we're at this kind of lower ebb. But our spirit has we have like a baseline where we kind of are, and finding that and going, letting our physical self getting at that and a little above that is where it's great to be, particularly if you're reading. But yeah, to get messages, and that kind of thing. Okay. I know the cold open was great. I told Adam, like, I think a week or two ago, I'm like, I think she's going to do SNL. just little weird things come like that. Where I'm like, I think Kamala's going to be on SNL. And that must have made Trump's head explode. Okay. Even though this is not a political show, but it was really cute. Okay, I did see questions here. I'm just getting to them, but please keep the conversations going and talk to each other. Oh my gosh, you guys are funny. Okay. So James, let me get my paper out. And so, so the place you want to be when you read, higher vibration, alignment, right? And then you want to be in a relaxed, kind of partially meditative state. And that's when you see me coloring, that's what I'm doing, is I'm getting in that kind of a very, very relaxed state to read. And that's when you're best, when you're reading. Not that my readings are going to be 100%. They're surely and absolutely will not be. But that's where you want to be for the most accurate, or the best place for a reader to be. Can you help us cope with the emotional energy we are wittingly or unwittingly processing as empaths right now? Yeah. So I'm going to ask my guides for some guidance on that. Okay, so they're saying at these times, our breath and our ability to kind of go into our body is our friend. They're talking about getting aligned with the breath and the body so that we can determine what is ours and what is outside of us. And so going inside and breathing will help us to kind of get aligned with our own energy and figure out, okay, am I anxious? Am I nervous? And is this mine, or is this outside of me? So that's the first thing they're talking about, is that at times like this, that is our friend. And even times, you guys, when you're feeling like, I'm feeling this, but I don't know why, or I'm feeling this, but why am I feeling this? I'm, like almost like confusion. That would be a great exercise as well, it sounds like. So you can determine, is this me, or is this my family member that just came in the door, or or just the atmosphere? Okay. Okay, then they're talking about, if it's you, getting centered, calling out to your team, your guides for help, prayer, meditation, things like that inner work kind of stuff, getting grounded, things like that will help. If it's outside of you, they're talking about clearing tools, whether that's sage or candles, or just a prayer of protection, kind of getting that energy around you cleared. They're talking about when you're out in public, they're saying, call in your guides to kind of bubble you up or put a light around you. You can they're saying you can do that at any time. It's not something you have to do in the morning or at night. You can do it anytime. And so they're saying, of course, if you do it in the morning before you're out and about, it will be more effective, because there's not even a chance of stuff getting to you. But energy is energy, right? And the tougher the energies, the more that there needs to be a concentrated request or a concentrated effort, intention of protection around you. And if you're going to the polls, you may want to do that, right? Because you're going to be around people that are worried or nervous or anxious, or even poll workers that might be nervous or worried or anxious. So that's what they're saying to do. So go in, see what's yours, and then fix that first. Go there first, because maybe it is yours. Maybe you're just feeling anxious or worried. Go in there and grounding, prayer, meditation, getting centered, breathing, getting centered with your breath. If it's not you, if you're like, I'm good, you feel like it might be what's outside that's affecting you, start clearing. Start asking for protection, or bringing out tools that you find are effective for you, or that the biggest thing is that you need to believe it's working, because your trust is part of the process. So that needs to be in place. So if you feel like sage really works for you, has worked before, use sage. If you have a favorite candle, or you have a relative that you feel will come in and protect you, you have to feel it works, because there is a trust factor here, and you're part of the process. You're not divorced from the process. You're part of it, and so you have to have that trust, and that it's almost like you're relaxing into the process. Okay. Um, if you're there that it's just like it's like reading or getting messages. You have to be open. You know, when you put up a wall or you have a wall of energy that's like, I don't believe this stuff. This is a it's not it still can work, but it's not going to be quite what it would be if you were open to it, or if you were part of the process and you believed it and you're calling it in and you know it works and you have that confidence in it. um, it helps, and it's part of it. So it's a part of the puzzle that helps this stuff work. Okay, so I hope that helps. And yes, I'm an empath. I bubble myself up. I have been for the last while, bubbling myself up in the morning and then at night releasing anything negative I may have picked up. And it really, really does help. It stopped headaches for me. It stopped stomach issues for me. So that's just for me, because mine can take kind of a physical toll. So, but when you're an empath, it can be kind of a lot. It can affect you mentally, emotionally, physically. So yeah, I mean, for anybody can do that. And if you want to make, I don't make a big deal about it. I do it in like 30 seconds, and I just have my visualization and my prayer that I say, and the way I release stuff. I just ask anything that negative that I've picked up, please, release it back into the light, and turn it into light. But if you like ritual, and or you love candles, or you love anything that you feel, this works for me, or maybe you grew up in a church, or you're still in a church, and those kinds of rituals, you feel comfortable with that, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. Whatever you feel like works for you. Okay. Okay, can you speak to the energy shifts, timeline jumps? Timeline jumps are kind of in the moment. That, at least for me, that's what I found, is like, I feel it though when it happens. Like I said, when Navalny, I thought whatever just happened made things 10 times worse for Vladimir Putin. I just felt it, and I felt like something had, it just felt like, it felt like that. It felt like kind of we jumped from here to here. It was just like a slight funk. And then same with Joe Biden. You felt it. You felt it too. I think that people's reactions to, they also felt it. And feeling that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good feeling. It can just be unsettling for people that don't know what just happened. So everybody's reaction can be different to it, right? And so some people will be very hopeful and jump right into it, and other people will be like, whoa, 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 wait, what just happened? What just happened? Because it's when you're off centered, it can take a minute, to get your equilibrium. And so it can be uncomfortable, and everybody's reaction to uncomfortability it can be different. So timeline shifts are kind of in the moment. So, but I will ask about any kind of energy shifts that are going to be upon us, or anything that they're saying. Bubble up, use protection. They're also saying be aware of illusion, be aware of like illusory, is that a word? Illusionary, illusion. uh, to me, it's like fear and things like that come into play that don't need to be there. So people saying things like, it could be really violent on Tuesday, or things like, you know, you know, uh, you know, It could be a really long night, or it could be, we won't know for weeks, or things like that, that are, they're illusion. They're not here yet. They haven't happened yet. So don't play into them. Don't give it life. Don't give it attention, and don't feed into that. Kind of pull away from those, especially things you don't want to happen. Pull away from them. But I feel like they're saying, with the shifts of energy, we have some control over that. And the control is in the way we react to things. And so try to act and not react. And it reminds me of kind of being, I feel like they're talking about kind of, when you're in the now and you're very aligned, there's a peace that comes with that. But there's also, and they just give me chills for that. There's a peace that comes with that, but there's also an ability to really have conscious action and conscious reaction. So you're very conscious of how you're reacting to things. You're not just going into whatever. You're not just reacting. You're very conscious of, okay, well, let me think about that. Is it happening? Do I see any evidence of that right now? No, I don't. So I'm not going to feed into that. And that's a very conscious choice of like, and that's what we're talking about too, is conscious choice. And so conscious choice of how you act or react. And so that's what they're talking about as well. Okay. So I hope that helps. And then also the previous question, we were talking about how to go inside, clear inside, and then clear outside, right? Keeping that clear, that constant kind of peace inside where you're kind of aligned and in the now is going to be paramount over the next few days, because that is what keeps you very steady, right? It steadies the ship, right? Okay. Okay. Are enough of us holding in, and I think it's like holding in, holding everything in love to help transmute the negativity that's coming. So they're saying there's always going to be dark and light. There's always going to be this dark and light. What they're talking about is when you're faced with darkness or a dark possibility, that what you want to do is not feed it in any way. So keeping your thoughts positive, keeping yourself clear of negativity, picturing, positive things, speaking positively, it's going to be great. Everything's going to be fine. And then act, in a positive way, sending money or like they say, knocking on doors and calling people, or just holding that positive energy, right? And sending that out. But they're talking about to not ever fear the darker energy, or, and I don't even call it negativity. It's just an offset. It's going to be there. So they're like, don't fear it. You don't have to fear it, but just don't, if you recognize it, don't feed into it. So don't get stuck in it or mired in it. Because even like when you're angry or sad, or you need to feel those things. It's okay to feel stuff and to have those things pop up, but being able to kind of, look at it, deal with it, take from it what you can that is positive, and then let it go, right? You don't want to get stuck. So I think that's what they're talking about here is it's okay to notice it, and it's okay that it's there. There's always going to be kind of a balancing here. On the earth plane, it's all about like kind of like darkness and light. And that that difference. You know, you can't recognize light without the dark, right? It's hard to do. And what will happen, and they're talking about like as we move towards, over, probably, I don't know, 50 years, 30 years, we move towards kind of a fifth dimension kind of place. What will happen is that the the dark and light will get the dark will be less dense, and the light will be kind of lighter. So there'll still be, those moments of, or like if something happens, but the light will be so light that we jump in right away and everybody works together and we fix it. It's that those things will still be there, but it's our reaction to it and either feeding into it or or counteracting it, kind of doing something opposite of it so that it kind of is held at bay, or it doesn't, seep in, and we're not stuck in it. We're not stuck in that dark place. We stay kind of in the light, noticing the dark, noticing it's there, but we're not mired in it, right? We see that, if we were going to talk about like, you know, we'll take it out of the United States, but if you see like a group that is like a very like extremist group that has all of these really dark notions about the other, that's a really dark place to be. And it's in its darkness day in and day out, and it's all kind of around you and stuff. And that's what they're talking about when they're talking about being kind of mired and stuck in it. Even in your thoughts, you can get mired and stuck in just negative thoughts, especially if you are depressed, or if you're in grief or something, you can get really stuck. And that's what they're talking about. So noticing it and having a reaction to it is okay, because it's there. But being able to make choices to keep it at bay and to not get stuck in it, right? Yeah. So, but are we doing enough? Are we doing enough? Are we doing enough right now? They're saying that right now there's more light on the earth, and they're saying that doesn't mean there's not going to be these pockets of darkness, but it's kind of like it's okay. One second, they're giving me an analogy. Mm-mm. Oh, great. It's something medical, but it's something about like wounds healing, and that they kind of go through a okay, they're giving me like a bruise, like getting hit, and then the bruise goes through different colors, and then it eventually kind of gets better and better and better. And they're saying this is what we're seeing. We're seeing these dark bruises from sometimes centuries or decades of sort of hate or darkness or meanness or cruelty or whatever. We're seeing this, and we're seeing the different phases of bruise, right? And it will dissipate. But and they're saying that right now, and I want to say that it's only been in the last several years that there's been more light on the earth than dark, and that it's spreading. And so, and then you're still seeing these phases of bruises going on. So it's all kind of, it's working basically. So yes, we are. Um, is there really such a thing as the thinning of the veil between our world and the rest? If so, when does it happen? Some say it happens October 1st and November 1st. Okay. So they're saying the veil is it's a separation of two frequencies, two vibrational frequencies, a denser lower one and a very high fast one, high vibrating fast one. And that the veil is kind of what's in between. It's kind of like so we think of it as almost like a wall, but it's really just a vibrational frequency. But they're talking about so many things, and a lot of it is our well, a couple of things, being locked into five senses, right? So that's kind of keeps us locked into this dimension, this physical dimension. To experience it, we have to be kind of locked in. But they're also talking about our kind of emotional reactivity. So our emotions have something to do with this, which is very interesting, because if you ever see Eckhart Tolle, you can take a drink. If you ever see Eckhart Tolle, he's so even, right? There's not a lot of movement there. There's joy, but there's and I remember Oprah asking him, do you ever get angry at anything? Or do you ever, and he's like, no, I don't. And he said, the last time I can remember getting angry was about something he saw about like an animal being hurt or something like that. And he said, but no, he doesn't. And so that movement of, I'm really, really angry now, and now I'm really happy now. And that movement it moves that vibration up and down, up and down. So we can go into these lower depths and these really high highs. And like I said, we're kind of somewhere in here, wherever our baseline kind of is in here. We can work to be higher and kind of slowly raise that baseline so it kind of stays. So it never really drops below a certain place. And now Eckhart Tolle would be way up here, right? That's just where he is. And that's what we're talking about. And that's kind of, and probably just a step above him is where the spirit realm is, right? So it's more of a, like they said, like two frequencies being walled off because one is low and one is high. And as we kind of reach, it's almost like they're really, the wall it's an invisible wall, but they're saying to understand the difference and how different the difference is, and why I can't, in the physical body, I'm locked in, why I can't see the spirit realm with my five senses, limited five senses, right? And this side of the veil, so to speak, or this kind of lower frequency, why I can't, always see or, be able to detect, the other side. The reason that I can as a reader is because I'm working outside of the five senses, right? I'm working with energy, the feel of energy, reading energy, following it. I'm working on, I open my third eye. I open my crown chakra to do mediumship. You're working outside of the five senses. And so within that, you're able to kind of reach across the veil, right? With that, you're outside the five senses enough that you can kind of reach in, right? Well, if you're locked in, I do a whole thing about this actually when I do an orb mediumship reading. I do like a whole thing at the beginning where I talk about what happens when we leave the body. But as long as we're locked into these five senses, we're very, very limited. When you start working, and it takes work. It's on us because we're the ones locked in. They're fine. People on the other side of the veil, they can see us, they can see them, and that's too why you can say it's not a real veil. It's just a difference between here and there, because they are at such a high vibration. They can see there, they can see here, they see, they can see it all. We're the ones that are locked in. We're in this dense atmosphere in these five senses. And so if we can't see, hear, feel, touch, smell it, it's not there. It doesn't exist, right? That's the way we think of it. So it's incumbent upon us to work to grow ourselves outside of the five senses, and that's when we can start picking things up and feeling spirit come in and following energy and be able to detect the future and things like that. That's where that is. Okay, so I hope that explains that, and helps to understand that. But as you know, like they're saying, there's more light on the earth right now than dark. That means that we're we're becoming more enlightened, and with that enlightenment comes a thinning of the veil, because more people are able to reach through the veil. Their vibration is getting higher as they can detect energy, and they can. So that's what the thinning is. It's not really a real, like a veil, and in a way it is, right? In a way it is, but it's more of just a difference, right? Okay. And Gina, I feel you. I feel you, girl. um, hmm. I'm going to go to my guides on this one. I have some thoughts on it, but I'm going to go to my guides on this one because I feel like there's something they want to talk about. So one second. Okay, so what they said is relax, let go, and let God. And I don't mean God as like this person sitting in the cloud. I mean God, let the universe, right? Because they're talking about what happens when we get spiritually stuck, and they're giving me chills right now, which makes me know that I got it right. That when we get spiritually stuck, what's really happening is that we're saying, how things are right now is not the way they should be. They should be different. And they're saying that we're always where we need to be. And so we need to be kind of uh, accepting of wherever that is. And a lot of times when we do that, we'll move into another area, because they're talking about too that when you adjust or move spiritually, there's a quieting beforehand, and it's to allow you space to kind of get aligned and ready for the next phase. And so and it's almost like they wait for us to be ready, or it's waiting for us to be ready. And so they're saying to be ready, relax, let go, and let God. Meaning, let it go. Don't think I'm spiritually stuck. Just know that this is where I am right now. And it's not good or bad. It's not high or low. And also to let go of any control of where you should be right now. That's what they're talking about. That's what I feel they're talking about, is that control to be, well, I should be here, or I had all of these experiences before and now I'm not having those. And so something's wrong, or something's not good, or I was making all this progress and now I'm stopped. And I shouldn't, I should be continuing on. So it's almost like you're fighting with what you think should be happening versus what's happening. And so they're saying, just relax into it. Don't worry about it. They have got you. You have got this. Your natural state is as a spirit. And so often we as humans need to relax into that. It's almost like, imagine your body kind of just like almost like fading away, because that's what we're letting go of, is the physicalness. That, like I said, being locked in the way we are in the physical body, letting that kind of flow away. And I'm telling you, that's exactly the state I had to get into when I had my out of body experience. And I wasn't, I, I, I was trying to control it too much. Once I just let go and thought, it's going to happen when it happens. I can't sit here and be like, it's going to happen tonight. It's not. Spiritual stuff is different. It's not, we want so much to make it like earthly stuff, where we set a goal, and we have a plan, and we follow the plan, and that's the way it is, or we have control over it, right? We want that control, but it's the opposite with spiritual stuff. They just gave me chills again. It's the opposite. It's letting go. It's opening up. It's trusting completely. In a way, it's so counter to how we are as people, right? We want to just hold on and control everything. And, we have that fight or flight in our brain, and we want to, and our ego's trying to keep us safe. And so we're in this constant like back and forth. And the more we can just let go, trust and let go, the quicker things happen, the more things just tend to keep going. And sometimes we have to be in those moments of complete despair, right? Those low ebbs where we just don't know what to do. And that's why we have these big moments in our lives. It's not the only reason, so obviously a lot of learning and life learning and things, but one way that awakenings happen is through devastating circumstances, when we have to let go, when we have no choice but to just let it go. Yeah, so that's what they're saying about that, Gina. Okay. And I know relaxing and letting go and letting go it's easier said than done, especially as people. But that's what they're saying is that's what you need to do. You're good. You're good. And now it's that rolling into that trust of, okay, I'm good. They've got this. I've got this. It's all good. I'm not anywhere that I need to be except right here. I don't need to be anywhere else except right where I am. Everything's perfect. Okay. And then before you know it, you'll be moving on. Okay. Do we have one set exit point, or can that point change depending on how? Okay, Beth. So they're saying that they're saying that there are many, usually there are many kind of possible exit points for people through their life. And like you said, kind of depending on what's happening or how things are going, people may take that point or not. Some points can be more of a wake-up call, like a wake up to life, like wake up to what's happening, wake up, to what's going on. And they're saying too that, but there is a kind of set date and time, just like there's a set date and time for your birth. They're saying there's a set date and time for your exit. And that they're saying it can shift a little bit. It can move a little bit. Like some people hang on until certain people get there to say goodbye, or like, for example, let's take my dog Lucy, right? I really believe that her exit point was extended because of the circumstance and because of what was happening. It was during COVID. I was separated from Cassie, and this whole community was praying for Lucy. So I felt like her exit point was extended about a year. And so I feel like it's kind of within that frame, maybe a year or two, where things can be a little flowy, but it does feel like there's a set date and time that's chosen, but it can be a little bit flexible around that date. Um, they're saying most people hit that date. Most people do, but they can kind of be maneuvered a little bit depending on circumstances, what's going on. And also they're saying also being very conscious of it. So if you feel like my time is coming, making that conscious um, choice, effort, request to have a little more time to do whatever, because you may feel like, I know my date's, I know this is coming. Like if you have a terminal illness or something like that, but you want to hold on a little bit for specific reasons or just a little more time. They're saying that with that around your date is within your control. That's what they're saying. But I think it's being conscious of that and being aware of that. I think some people are unconsciously aware, and so they might just will themselves to make it another year or make it another 2 years, but it's within our control around that date. But there is a set, just like there's a set birth date, there's a set death date. That's like a permanent death date. But that's also, they're saying too, that's when a lot of people are pulled out of their body for when there's there's no need for the suffering. Sometimes when it's earlier and they're going to live and it's going to be okay, there's a reason for the suffering. There's some reason for it. And they're pulled out if there's not. There's never any kind of needless suffering. It's usually for some purpose, either a wider world purpose or a personal purpose. But I feel like they're telling me, like, don't get too far into that, because we don't want people to misunderstand and think like you're being made to suffer or not suffer. It's very individual and it's very personal, or it can be kind of a world, kind of like a collective kind of thing, for a collective lesson, or a personal thing for a personal lesson. But when the suffering is needless, like there's nothing to come out of it or no reason for it, you are pulled out of your body. And so they want to also tell people this, so that if they've seen people suffer at the end, or it seemed like they were suffering, most likely they had already been pulled out of their body. And particularly like near the very end, there's no reason for it. And so there's no reason for it. Okay. So I hope that answers that question. And I feel like this topic is very complex. I feel like they're giving us kind of an overview, but it can be very individual, it feels like. Okay. Can I ask this question? Every time I ask for one of my parents to come through, why is it always my dad? I love hearing from him, but I want to hear from her too. Let me ask about this, because yeah, yeah. This is interesting. So they're saying that, so they're saying that some, okay, so there's a couple of things here. One reason can be where they are in their progress, right? So if one passed, a long time ago and one just passed, that makes sense, right? You hear from the one who'd been there for a long time and the other one's still kind of they're going through the process, so that would make sense, right? But they're talking about too that, sometimes even like readers, they might resonate with one parent over another. So their vibration might be a match for like your dad. So there might just be this kind of vibrational match, because they're talking about the fact, though, that your mom is around you an awful lot, and that you're actually a match with your mother. And so they're saying sometimes when it's you and you're calling in a family member or something, it can feel kind of like you. It's because when it's such a match, it can be hard. Yeah, they're giving me chills again. It can be hard to detect because it's like you're the same vibration. And they're saying too that sometimes maybe the readers you're going, if you've gone to readers, if you're just talking about you, that may explain that, right? Your dad is at a different vibration, so maybe he's a little more detectable. Your mom's at the same, so maybe it might be a little less hard to a little harder to discern when it's you, and they're now, for a reader, they're pulling in somebody who is, or they're talking to somebody who is, hopefully they're at some kind of near their vibrational frequency. So they're picking it up, right? They're picking up, and depending on where they are, it can be like you pick up a little bit or a lot. You've seen that with readers where sometimes it's really, really clear, and other times it's off, or it feels like it's in a fog. And that's why it's not really a match, or they're at a different place vibrationally at that time. And they're saying that if for readers, it may have been that they are kind of a vibrational match with your dad, so it kind of comes in more clearly. And it's interesting too because they're saying too that once you realize that, you might really hear your mom really, really well, because like I said, you're at the same vibrational frequency, but you may not be noticing it as much because it's like you're at you're playing a C note and she's at a C note. So it just sounds like C. If it's slightly different, it might be easier to detect. But once you've detected it, you'll probably hear her really, really clearly. Because it's like you're matching that vibrational frequency. But they're saying on the outset, when you first are trying to connect, it may not stand out like it does at somebody at a slightly different resonance than you. Isn't that interesting? I've had that happen when we used to do ladies' night. Some people were so clear. It was like they were right next to me. And other people, it was like they were at the end of at the other end of a tunnel. It's like I couldn't see them very well. I couldn't hear them very well. And I remember too that were super clear. It was almost like channeling. Was Marilyn Monroe was super clear. It was like she was sitting right next to me. I could hear every word. I could hear inflections in her voice. I could see her. Karen Carpenter, for whatever reason, but their resonance is very close to mine, and so it was a clear connection. And then there are other people that I can tell are at a different resonance, but they're still clear because they're close enough that it's clear. It's pretty clear. And I'm thinking that may be what's happening with your dad, with these readers, is that it's closer to their kind of where they are. And but your mom, they're saying that you are like a perfect match with her. So keep working at it, Joanna. Maybe just knowing that will help to make that connection. But once you make it, it will be clear as a bell. It will be clear as a bell. So just know that she's trying, she's around you, but that you are a perfect match for her. And it may be why other readers aren't picking her up maybe as well as you could. So keep trying, okay? And like I said, maybe just knowing that, sometimes just having that information and knowing, okay, you're here, Mom. So just talk to me, just tell me, I know you're here and I know that we're a perfect match. So just start talking to me. Yes, you can, Queenie Jeannie. So I'm going to answer one more question because we're getting, I'm going to answer one more question because we're kind of getting to the end here, but thanks you guys so much for doing this. I think we're going to have one more session like this, and I'm going to have a couple guests coming up. So I'm just kind of figuring out my calendar still. So it's just me being slow. Okay, so we're asking about indigo children. Question, are there really indigo children? Will they make a difference? Okay. Okay. So interesting. Okay. So they're saying that indigo, that just like tone, that color is it's a way to differentiate. And so they're saying that what basically indigo children are is children coming in at a different vibrational frequency, at a different tone. And that it can, you can see us all as colors, all different colors. And they're saying that in the spirit realm, spirits will vibrate with color. They'll have a color to them. And they're saying color is color is very much a part of like energy and vibrational energy. And so, and as well as like music. And so they're saying like tones and things like that and color are very connected. As they're even saying some art. If you were highly sensitive, you might hear tones coming from it. If it was like all the colors of art, and it's like visual art would have tones coming from it. So they're saying that it's very, very connected. And so what they're saying is that indigo children are basically what they I don't know if it's a person or a way of interpreting it. Interpreted it as a different color, but basically what they're saying is they're at a different tone. So yes, and they're saying with each generation, you're going to say, so one generation could be indigo and one could be, purple and one could be bright red. And it's a differentiation of tone. It's a way to differentiate the vibrational frequencies coming into the earth. And so, yes, and they're saying that there'll be influxes at different times. And so they're saying that about 10 years from now, about 10 years from now, there'll be another kind of influx. And they're saying it has something to do with the pandemic, like people from the pandemic that passed or whatever are coming back. So it's kind of like an influx of an even higher vibration. And so with every like generation or with every whatever, there's like this influx that comes in that that makes things higher, raises things and is moving us. And right now it's like we've reached a tipping point where there's more light, there's a higher vibration going on in the earth than there ever has been. And so we're raising. Like I said, we're the thing you can count on is that the universe is constantly evolving, growing and expanding, moving forward, right? So we can be pushed back a little bit, but we're going to be progressing. We're going to be moving forward. That's the game, right? That's the game. That's part of, just like being in the body and being locked in to the five senses. That's the game. to experience this realm, that's part of the game, is the constant movement and evolution. We see it all around us. So it's obvious, right? It's obvious. But it even has to do with our ability, lower vibration would be, hate, separation, cruelty, not empathetic, and no compassion. Higher vibration, our highest vibrations would be complete cooperation, complete peace, complete acceptance of the other, right? Letting complete freedom, complete compassion, right? So that's where we're moving. That's what it means to go up in vibration, right? That's what it means. So that's where we're moving to, whether we like it or not, whether they like it or not. But it's the game, right? So that's what's happening, and it's going to continue happening. And like I said, we can be backed up a little or stop for a while, but eventually the wheels start turning again, because that's just, like I said, that's the game. Okay, everybody. So lock arms. Let's all lock arms for Tuesday. It's going to be great. I just got chills with that. It's going to be great. We're going to be okay, come what may, because we're in this together. And that is what's important, is this togetherness. I mean, have you ever felt more kind of embraced by, like, just people, like, coming together? Every time you see one of the big, like, Kamala rallies, it's just joy overflowing, and people just enthusiasm overflowing, and you can just feel it. So just feel that. I keep visualizing people dancing on Tuesday night. So, let's just lock arms. We're in this together, come what may. No worries, no fears. Okay, we've got this. All right. Okay, hang in there, everybody. We're almost to the finish line. We'll get there together. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.